There we go. All right, now I can officially welcome everybody. We're recording and we're started. So welcome to today's session on the new and interesting tool called Benji. I'll turn things over in just a moment to our presenter, Matt Parson. But before I do that, I just need to take care of a little bit of logistics here with our participant list. So please bear with me for a moment. While I just do that, juggle all the windows here. Karen, I'm not seeing you on my participants list. Oh, is that kind of made you a co-host? That's why. Is that why? No, it's because you're up at the top. Never mind. Sorry.
No problem.
Barbara, are you trying to pin Karen?
I'm going to pin Karen and Jessica.
Oh, they've already been pinned, I think.
Okay. So Karen and Jessica, can you weigh in on that?
If you want all of the participants to be able to see us, use the spotlight feature. The pin feature just does your own personal screen.
Gotcha. Here we go.
Okay.
And I think you can only spotlight one at a time.
Got it.
So when we switch, we can just change the spotlight. That's no problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. So Karen and Jessica, are you ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, so welcome, 90 participants today. This might be almost a record for any of our PD sessions that we've had since the onset of COVID-19. And we started doing our remote PD sessions in early June of last year. It's great to see so many people here. Today, we have participants both from our college academic upgrading programs, and we have participants from our college employment services programs. So we decided to do a joint session today because the information and presentation on the Benji application is really applicable to all of us. So we're really glad that we could share this session today with all of our colleagues. Please do be aware that we have two American Sign Language interpreters, Jessica and Karen, who are here today to interpret for our deaf participants. So if at any point we have a Q&A where you might be unmuting and offering a question, just please remember to speak slowly and clearly so that the ASL interpreters have time to hear and understand and interpret. So I think without further delay, I will introduce our guest presenter for today. Matt Parson is with us. Matt is the founder of the Benji company/application. He's had quite a substantial history already in education, and you read a little bit about Matt and his biography in the promo piece for our session today. Matt, I will not say any more except that we're really looking forward to your session, and if you could give us a little bit more background about yourself, I'm sure everybody would be interested to hear that at the before we delve into the Benji session. So Matt, over to you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Barb. Appreciate it. I've got a quick little kind of about me slide in a hot sec, so okay. I will hold off to that point, but I'm just going to share my screen. So got a little presentation here for everyone. So can everyone see my screen okay?
We can.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So yeah, today is all about sort of how can we host remote workshops that wow, not just workshops, I mean sessions, lessons, just generally gatherings of folks with some type of central goal. So we've got a lot to cover today, and the agenda for today is we've got a quick little icebreaker. We're going to go into kind of like the three primary reasons that remote sessions can be a bit of a challenge. 6 tactics to overcome that. Hopefully some very practical tactics that you can employ today, tomorrow, as soon as possible. Then we're going to look into kind of what type of tech is out there that can help make this this transition to remote a little bit easier. We've got a fun little collaborative case study to hopefully synthesize a lot of the content that we're going to go through, a little pop quiz, and then we'll, sort of time permitting, have a bit of Q&A. So who am I? Why am I here speaking to you all? As Barb mentioned, I'm the founder of Benji, which is sort of a tool that's helping people sort of deliver remote workshops that are a lot more valuable or engaging and effective. Before that, I was one of the partners and sort of founding members of a private career college called RED Academy that got schools in Vancouver and Toronto. And before that, I was working at UBC within the student's office on a range of initiatives. So that's a little bit about me. With all of that sort of activity today, the agenda, what we really want people walking away from this with is, we all understand that Zoom fatigue is a real thing, but why? Like, what are the reasons that so we all feel a little bit more empty after a long day of staring at a screen versus sort of being all together within a classroom? What's the best way to structure these remote workshops or classes, and then also those tactics that I mentioned that we can start using. So I should say right off the bat, 90 is a huge number. We generally sort of have workshops around like 20 to 30. So the best hope that we have to get through all of this is if people can be as present as possible. We are going to be asking you to engage with one another as well as sort of the group. So if you can be as present as possible, if you can within your circumstances, have your camera on, and then also if you have any chat or sort of any questions, throw it in the chat, and let's have some fun. So one thing that we can all, I think, sort of understand with moving to remote is that we lose a bit of that social community aspect that we might expect from an in-classroom experience, and that's why I'm a big believer in sort of allowing people to have the chance to get to know one another and have those sort of random spontaneous moments of connections. So we're going to kick off with a little icebreaker. I'm going to ask everyone either on their phone, or if you want, you don't have your phone handy, you can open up a second desktop window and go to app.mybenji.com. Oops. Oh no. Jumped the gun there. And you're going to see a little welcome window that is going to ask you to put in a room code, which is just this little sucker here, and then throw in your name, and we're going to sort of get kicked off once everyone's joined us.
And I just typed the site and the code into the chat.
Great.
Jennifer says, "What's your name is grayed out for me."
Oh yeah, you just need to put the room code in, and then it will open up.
So the room code is at the top of the screen, 93391.
Just a point of housekeeping as well. As we go through this, if there's any point that you're looking at my screen and you're looking at your screen and it seems like things are out of sync, 99% of the time, just a quick little refresh on your phone or on your desktop will put you right back where you need to be.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions in the chat about getting in.
Let's see here.
Oh, Lisa got in on their second try. That's good.
everyone can join after we start. It's not like you have to get in right at the lobby, and that's kind of a one-shot deal. But I'll probably wait a couple more seconds here, kind of 10, 15 seconds, and we'll get started. So anyways, the next activity we're going to get into is we're going to be pushing everyone off into breakout groups. And on your phone, you'll see we've got basically 10 silly icebreaker questions. Kind of flip through them, find the ones that speaks most to you, and within your groups, just introduce yourself, your name, and then sort of what icebreaker question you chose to answer, and sort of what your answer is to that. So let's get started. So real quick before that, actually, I'm going to start. So everyone should be able to see your icebreakers, but as we're doing that, I'm going to break everyone off into breakout groups. I think I need to stop the share. Yeah, okay. Okay. We're going to do 15 breakout groups. Okay.
So Matt's just putting us in breakout rooms. I see we can scroll through the questions on our phones. Is there one question per breakout room?
Everyone has access to all the
Okay.
questions. It's just whatever they want to speak to.
I'm just going to hang out here because I don't know if we have anyone that's deaf actually present.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm hoping if we do, someone will come back and request an interpreter.
Okay. And just for the benefit of anyone watching this afterward in the recording, the silence is because people are in breakout rooms now. And rather than stopping and starting the recording, I'll just leave it running while we're in the breakout rooms. And I see people coming back.
All right. Yeah, sorry, it's breakout rooms. They feel not long enough. It's one of the difficult pieces of going remote. So I hope everyone had the chance to sort of think of a silly question, maybe a thought-provoking one, got to know some folks around you a little bit better. Was there any sort of insight or sort of sharing that someone had sort of brought up that they'd want to share with the rest of the group? If you want, on your phone, you can press the I want to share sort of tab, and that's going to sort of throw your name on the list of folks that sort of are interested in sharing, and we'll see what your prompt was, and you can share whatever that might be. If not, that's totally fine. We can go on to the next piece.
If you don't see the I want to share button, you can refresh your phone browser. I just did that, Matt, so that I could see the I want to share button.
Right. Okay. Well, I can share. My favorite family tradition is my mom totally butchered a meal on Valentine's Day for my dad one year, and it ended up being like the most tasty dish that we had ever had as a family, and it's now just something that I do with my partner. My sister does it with her partner. It's kind of like the Parson screw up Valentine's dinner sort of meal. It's kind of one of those happy accidents. So, okay, I'm going to unshare that. Oh, I see X wants to share. X, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Right. Hi there. Our question was, you're about to sail around the world. What's the name of your boat? We thought Blue Nose 3, Survivor, and we thought of a name we wouldn't give it, which would be Titanic.
That's great. And I'm going to pronounce it Elise.
Yes, hi. So
Hey.
our question, we had a choice between sushi and scotch tape, and apparently scotch tape is important, but sushi won.
There you go. Great.
I see that
Okay.
Veronique is wondering what the recipe was that your mother butchered on Valentine's Day.
It was like a prawn feta lemon. It's actually, funny enough, very similar to this like viral recipe that's going around on TikTok, which is you kind of bake a lot of tomatoes and feta and shrimp and so lemon juice. So our next activity we're going to go to here is a brainstorming activity. So just to kind of get a lay of the land, really helpful to understand where people are at right now. So I'm going to, press next here, and on your phone you'll see what kind of looks like almost like a digital post-it note. And just if you feel open to it, just share what have been some of the difficulties with going remote, be it in your classroom or sort of delivering workshops. And from that, we'll hopefully see some trends that we can speak to and handle sort of throughout this workshop. So you're going to, on your phone, sort of type, you can add a photo if you'd like. Maybe there's a photo that really represents the feeling that has been most difficult going remote. And then you're just going to click the share idea on the top right.
And again, just hit refresh if you can't see the brainstorm screen.
So just as they're coming in, I'm just going to start kind of seeing if there's some themes to it. Disconnection is one. Social engagement. Participation is a very common one that we're seeing, so we're definitely going to speak about that. Oh, there we go, a little photo. Eye fatigue, technical issues, internet connectivity, posture pain. I recently got a standing desk. Cannot kind of speak to that high enough. It's been a game changer. Bouncing ideas. All right. It's love the pet photos. Okay. All right, so this is super helpful. So you can see like very rapidly, we can start I think the hope for this session, but I'm just already taking a look at the time, it's 3:25. We've got a lot to get through, was we were going to kind of go through a little process of sort of creating categories and moving these into different groupings of all the ideas that we collected from the group. But I just think with the number of people today and the sort of time constraint, we might opt to kind of skip that part of the workshop. But I'm seeing quite a lot of themes, so can't tell if your jokes are landing. That one hits personally home. One thing I would add as just a little fun little side pro tip is you can create a little soundboard. There's many different websites out there, and stack it with as many different sound effects that you would like and have it kind of off screen. And so if a joke doesn't land, you can sort of press the button and sort of have your sitcom laughter, and that generally will lessen the pain of a joke not hitting. Okay, disengage people, disconnection, participation, and then there's an element of kind of spontaneity that's popping up here as well. It's tough to kind of create that structure that allows for just randomness to happen. So that is our kind of little kick. Actually, one last bit is just to get a sense of your current comfort level. We've got a quick little poll here. What's your current comfort level? So those are the pains, but sort of how has the adapting to remote gone for people so far? And thank you to everyone for participating, sort of throwing in your...
Pretty good, Matt. We have 86 people logged in and 87 people in the workshop.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm seeing a couple remote superstars. That's awesome. I hope to learn sort of a couple things from you this workshop, and kind of a general kind of normal distribution around pretty okay, which is great. But I think from those pain points that we're seeing before, just the kind of bare minimum of like, okay, I can sort of see and hear people, I can deliver the content, I can do some pretty basic things. That's being reasonably, I don't want to say that aspect people have been able to translate to the remote environment, but it's those extra sort of electricity, the camaraderie of the in-person workshops that's been really difficult to translate. So with that, we're going to pop over to back to the slides. So here we go. We have a quick little question, which is, come on. Of course, my internet's feeling a little bit janky, but just because we're moving into a digital format, I'm going to put it forward that we don't have to accept the fact that it is going to be very passive, kind of lackluster, a disengaging experience. And I think to help us go through this process of reimagining what could a really incredible remote learning experience or remote workshop experience feel like, to take a quick sidestep to take a look at what are some other areas that are killing it in this space. And to take a look at this picture, we see sort of some folks on the left that can spend hours on end, sort of at the edge of their seat, sometimes on the floor, just gripped by some type of experience. In this case, it's video games. But on the right side, we've got someone who is just pretty dull-eyed and ready to kind of move on and probably wants to be anywhere else than here. And so the question is like, well, why? What is the fundamental difference? And the sort of concept in media studies is that there are forms that are called lean forward media. So from this past example, a lean forward media would be a video game where you are sort of literally having to lean forward to have to engage with that. Lean back media, I think the most sort of common example for this would be like that comatose state of you got potato chips on your chest and you've sort of just binged like 8 hours of a Netflix series, and you're feeling almost like you're in a bit of a vegetative state. My question, I guess, would be kind of what are the distinguishing factors that determine whether something is a lean back media, so like a TV media, or a lean forward media. In the example I was sharing, it was the video game piece. So that's just another question I'm going to put back to the group. If you can share in your the Brainstorm app, or the Brainstorm activity, what are the distinguishing features about lean forward media that make it so much different than lean back media? So I'm seeing some themes emerge just as this is rolling in. Engagement, frequent visual changes, interactions, individual input is required, interesting visuals, group participation, new tools. This is fantastic. Choices have to be made. Really great. Fun, great answer. More focus is required. Tactile environment, participation. So yeah, I think we all intuitively understand this. And the reason I bring this up is that really, I think that this is the core issue with going to remote. My sort of distinguishing feature, if I was to put it out there, is it's a question of how much agency does the participant have over their environment and their own success. So if you're watching TV, let's say I love watching reruns of Seinfeld, whether I'm doing anything, Jerry's jokes to George are going to land exactly the same way. I'm just a bystander to this interaction, versus that lean forward example of the video games. That child has to make decisions which will ultimately impact whether they're successful or not. So there is a definition of success and not successful. So they have some type of goal, some sort of type of measurement on how they're doing. And they have the ability to take actions towards success, or sort of obviously the opposite would be not achieving success. So the problem with remote is that it often defaults to a lean back type of media. And I would say that the primary reasons behind this is that if you don't have structures, we just have the heads in boxes, the sort of Brady Bunch type of environment. It's so difficult to give agency to people for them to be able to impact their own success, right? And so that's part kind of column A. Column B is that me standing here, in this case, literally hundreds of kilometers away from people, my gestures, my voice is captured by a video, like a webcam, translated into zeros, thrown through some tubes somewhere, I assume, and then thrown onto your computer screen somewhere else. There's a lot that's lost in that translation. So communication is just, it's dampened. If we were to give some objective rating to this very subjective thing that I'm describing, if you're delivering at a 10, it's probably only going to get to your participants at an 8 or a 7. And so because people don't have the chance to actually get their hands dirty, and because your sort of energy, your communication is flattened to a certain degree, what you see is a lack of engagement And that lack of engagement will cause social loafing. And so to give a bit of a kind of definition to social loafing, it's a simple idea that the less accountability someone feels that they have to a group or to an outcome, the less likely they are to be engaged. So the simple sort of example would be if each person has their own assignment that they have to present back to the class, they're going to participate a lot more than if they've got a group of 10. And we're talking about like an individual basis. Of course, there's some externalities of you're going to get more than the sum of the parts if there's some social aspect to it. But the general idea is if I can turn off my webcam and go play with the dog and no one knows, there's a chance I might. And so that's kind of social loafing. So to recap, the three kind of like buckets of why remote can feel a bit flat is that it's difficult to give people the agency over their own success and actually have some hands-on interactivity. Your communication's flattened, and because of these two pieces, you're going to see some social loafing. So these are the three kind of pieces that we're going to take a look at to see, well, how can we combat these three barriers? So number one, how can we liven up Zoom calls? This is pulled from a fellow that I like to kind of, I find him immensely entertaining, but also fairly intelligent, is Scott Galloway. If you're delivering a class, he's a professor at NYU, by the way. Oh, I'm just going to mute. There we go. Pretend you're telling a story to an 8-year-old. It will feel ridiculous at times, but like we're talking, if you feel ridiculous, it's probably because you're actually speaking at like 120% energy level or 120% on the ridiculous-o-meter. But remember, that then gets translated back to probably 100%. Again, sort of using these objective terms to try and our best to define the subjective experience. But it's going to land back at like that 100% mark of what it might have felt like in person. The second piece that we can think about when we're trying to up that communication, sort of de-flatten it, is let's take advantage of the medium. So one quick little side anecdote here is whenever something evolves to a new medium, what often happens is just a replica of what it once was in a new medium. So to make that abstract thing more tangible, websites, the first websites were actually just really god-awful digital brochures, but put on the internet. And another classic example in this space is the first movies were actually people just filming plays and then sort of streaming them. And what we lose is that there's actually more affordances that are available to you when we move into a new medium. So in the movie context, think about CGI or sort of big time cuts, or I mean, just think about like Star Wars in the 70s. So within sort of the remote environment, I'm just going to play a quick little silly video here. Actually, I'm realizing I might have shared it without the sound, but the point that I'm just trying to make here is there's an app called they chose that name because they wanted the ability to say it while you had food in your mouth, which is a great name, great reason behind the name. This person, this founder, basically allows you to give presentations as if you are sort of on the nighttime news. You can take your own body, you can move it around, and you're going to see here, so he pops back up in front of the slides, and he's slowly going to actually, wait for it, disappear, and move over to the part of the slide that he was kind of interested in speaking about. So it's a silly example, but it's just meant to be allow you to think about different ways that you can be more engaging that clearly wouldn't be possible if you were doing this in person. So the example I mentioned earlier around sort of using sound cues, of course, Murphy's Law, I tested it earlier today and it wasn't working with my Zoom, but I really recommend using sound cues if you can get it working on your end. because let's say you give a round of applause when someone shares. It really does sort of liven up the experience. So moving on. We have our next slide. So my partner said you should give $20 to anyone who can actually sort of connect the dots as far as like why I put a transformer on the screen here. The general idea is you want to be going through many states as possible, because generally what happens, and I realize the irony in that I've been talking probably for longer than sort of 3 or 5 minutes here, but you want to be sort of pushing through as many states as possible. The human brain is drawn to changes. It's kind of like our reptilian brain is probably not that far off from the T-Rex. And if anyone can think about that scene in Jurassic Park where the two kids are in the Jeep sort of, and the T-Rex's eye comes next to the window and they just stop moving, that's kind of what a remote workshop that just has someone talking at you can feel like, where someone is just not even aware of what's happening because there's no changes that are occurring. So if you can, I would recommend taking a recording of your lecture, and doing a bit of an audit of like, how long am I just talking at people? And can we make things switch up within like a 3 to 5 minute time period? So in that spirit, I'm just going to ask folks right now, it can be something as simple as in the chat, can you share any tips or ideas that you have used before that can sort of break the monotony of a lecture or sort of break things up into some kind of different state changes? I would say in person, a classic example of this would be like the think, pair, share. Such a beautiful little exercise. Hey, get in groups, think about this idea, and we're going to share it back. What are some things that folks are using right now? I'm seeing polls come through. Memes, love it. Whiteboard, Kahoot. Okay. So that's a simple state that we can use. Another example that is probably not as obvious is switching a slide is a change of state. So if you have a slide with 15 points on it and you're just going point by point on that single slide, I'd recommend switching it up to maybe you have 19 slides. I know it's a little bit more work, but it's going to keep people a lot more engaged because it is at least a bit of a shift to the person's eye as you're sort of switching things up. I saw in the brainstorm that we did, when we're talking about what's the difference between lean forward versus lean back, a lot of folks were saying like really interesting visuals and sort of dynamic visuals. So if you are having to deliver content and that's just the nature of that session or that workshop, at least try and create a bit more sort of variability. Did I pronounce that right? A bit more variety in sort of your slides. Okay, so moving on. We are talking about social loafing. So social loafing is the lack of personal accountability, basically leading to a lack of engagement. The 3 easiest ways that we can do this for combat social loafing is the call in or call on people, breakout groups whenever possible, because the smaller the unit of folks, the more accountable each person has to be. And then also setting the expectation up front that someone will have to share their work. So I'm going to sort of make a quick pause. Does anyone have any questions? Hands up if you want. So the reaction feature in Zoom or in the chat. Okay. No.
Matt, there was a question in, just before you asked for the latest input in the chat, just around engagement. And it was from Tina. I understand the need for engagement. What if you have a group of people all working on different things? It's very difficult to keep everyone engaged. So half comment, half question.
Yeah, totally. I think having peer feedback is a great tool. So even if it might not necessarily be working towards the same goal, being able to allow people to be put into breakout groups and then say, hey, do you have any suggestions or ideas or feedback on what I'm working on, can be a great little way to sort of thread different groups back, even if they're not necessarily related on the same goal.
And then
Oh.
almost the opposite question came up also. What if the groups are quite small? Because then you can't really have breakout rooms.
Well, I think those are actually kind of the best because it's almost like the whole time it's like a breakout group.
Yeah.
Generally, you use breakout groups because you're trying to make the massive feel more intimate. And if it's already intimate, then sort of the breakout groups wouldn't be super necessary. But of course, there's still ways to do it. Okay, so I'm making cardinal sin of poor time management, so I'm going to have to try and go through a lot of stuff here very quickly. And I'll give everyone sort of my email address if they want to sort of share ideas and sort of what have you after this as well. But from our point of view, we sort of at Benji generally go back to Kolb's exponential learning of theory as our way to try and design the best possible activities and to sort of bastardize this fantastic learning theory. Like, we're basically just saying, can we give people the chance to actually try and do something, the space to then reflect, the space to think about how do those reflections internalize and sort of match to my existing knowledge set, and then plan to use that new knowledge in some type of new iteration. What I find so fascinating about so this cycle was that it really maps quite well to the same kind of gospel level within remote workshops. So if Kolb's is sort of like the foundational text to active learning, well, Gamestorming is like the foundational text to active workshops. And what's really interesting about this is that it goes through a similar structure to Kolb's theory, which is every activity should have some type of opening up, so some moment of divergence. The easiest explanation of this would be a very well-crafted, sort of thought-provoking question. This then translates into some type of moment of exploration or emergent thinking, and then you need to then bring that all back through some type of synthesis or convergence. And so if we were to think about a brainstorming activity, you're going to put a prompt to the group, maybe some silent time for people to really gather their thoughts, then have a share back period where people can share their ideas to the group. And what will happen through this is that there's going to be some themes and trends emerging through that. And then finally, through those themes and trends, the convergence is the process where we can go from like data to info to knowledge to hopefully wisdom, sort of moving up the sort of the ladder of, hey, we just got a whole mess here, but what are these outcomes? What are the insights? So where I'm going with this is that really the base building block of like a fantastic remote workshop should be these sort of cycles of divergence, emergence, and then convergence. Or in a learning context, it's just going through cycles of Kolb's theory of learning. And to be able to do that, because we talked about how Zoom is somewhat limited, this is fetched from the website Session Lab. It's effectively like lesson plans, but for workshops. This is their sort of view. You've got generally two options when it comes to like hands-on learning. It's the Mentimeters, the Slidos, the Kahoots, and then you've got your sort of online whiteboards. And not to be a shameless pitch, but we feel like at Benji, there's a space for a third, which is a little bit more tailored to learning, which is what the kind of the space that we're looking to sort of create within this market. But if we're saying what's available right now, sort of from a well-established point of view, this is the landscape. And it's really a matter of choosing the tool for the purpose. So for cloud whiteboards, if it's a smaller group, if all 90 of us were on one whiteboard, we would have a hurricane of multicolored cursors flying around everywhere, and it would be absolute chaos. So I think group size is one determinant of what tech you're choosing to use, as well as sort of the purpose of the engagement. So cloud whiteboards, I would say, are for smaller groups, and the purpose is some type of visual collaboration. Your second sort of option of well-established tools would be these engagement platforms. So Their downside is that you're constrained to a question and answer format. So the Kahoots, the Mentimeters, what have you. The upside is that they were originally designed for large scale conferences. So if you've got 90 people or 10,000 people, frankly speaking, it doesn't make too much of a difference. You're visualizing those responses. So I really want to get to that last kind of activity that we've got here, where we are going to create our own activity in a remote setting, following the formats that we've talked about, which is sort of what is something that we can create that we can do remotely that allows us moments of divergence, emergence, and convergence, or we follow Kolb's cycle of learning. But the one other additional layer on to all of this that I'd recommend is because we're remote, it's of utmost importance to over-communicate. I think that is the critical factor that is a bit more forgiving in person, because you have the ability to walk around the room. If you're walking around the room in a remote setting, you're busting through virtual walls, and you can start to feel like the Kool-Aid man, having to like bash into people's breakout groups. The best sort of solution to this is clear communications, which these two folks, Jake and Jonathan, I should give a little context to this. They're the sort of designers of this concept called the design sprint, which is now like one of the, they're kind of, they're kind of like Ken Robinson of like design thinking and remote workshops, like very esteemed individuals. And this is their three tips, which is people need to know the what, like what are we about to do, the how, sort of how does this fit into the bigger picture, like why are we doing this, and then the steps of what do we actually need to do step by step. So without further ado, we're going to get into our collaborative case study. We have 9 minutes. I'm totally appreciative of that fact, but we're going to push people into breakout groups. I'm going to give everyone, let's say, 8 minutes, and what you're going to see on your phone or on your second desktop is a little worksheet where you in your group will have to design an activity that follows those 3 steps of divergence, emergence, and then convergence, and write that activity out in the format of a what, why, and how. So there's going to be a bit more kind of, I'm going to stop my share. I'm going to put everyone to their breakout groups. And if you do have any questions, as always, you can, no. I made the cardinal mistake.
Okay.
The time crunch is real.
It's okay, we're good.
Okay.
Just posting a reminder that if you are having any trouble seeing the next activity, just refresh the browser on your phone and it should pop up.
Oh yeah, I'll just broadcast a message. I already closed the breakout rooms because I basically need to tell people how to find their worksheet. That's a rookie mistake on my part.
So you're going to close them and bring them back in?
I already pressed close breakout room, so it kind of puts everything on a timer.
Yep, got it.
Yeah, it's a mistake on my part. All right, sorry everyone. I was too quick on the trigger with the breakout groups. Basically, I needed one additional piece of information, which is just that you're going to see on your phone basically the ability to pick a breakout group, and that breakout group that you get put into, Zoom will tell you you're in breakout room 1, you're in breakout room 2, what have you. Just pick the breakout group that you're on your phone. There should be sort of a little almost looks like a multiple choice sort of screen. So you're going to pick it there. So yeah, apologies about that little snafu, but if you'll see on your phone, Breakout Group 1, 2, 3, and that's the group that you should go into.
So do you pick any one you want, or how? Because I've got like 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. Which one?
Yeah, so
How do I
you know
know
what?
which one is mine?
Yeah, great question. So your room should correspond with the room number. So if your Zoom will tell you you're in Breakout Group 1, you're in Breakout Group 2, and that should be the group that you're put into, like the group that you choose. You know what? I'm realizing it might be a bit quick for us to try and do the case study with how much time we have. So I'm just thinking we might sort of opt to sort of move forward without doing the Breakout Group. I apologize to everyone. Sort of a bit poor time management on my part, but maybe as a kind of consolation, we've got a quick little here we go. I might just sort of go through the wrap up phase here, if we will.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, on everyone's phone, I'm just going to push to our feedback tool. And it's basically just a little exit ticket. So as we sort of wrap up, if you could be so kind to just leave a little bit of feedback, that would be much appreciated. So I'll be pulling that up, but maybe in the meantime, as sort of that's loading, if anyone has any questions, now would be a sort of good time to throw them either in the chat or to sort of raise your hand, and we'll get to you.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to jump in. It's Barb.
Yeah.
Just to run back to a couple of items in the chat from earlier, and I hope I haven't missed anything important. Judith, a little while ago, did make the point that we still have a number of participants, clients, learners who don't have access to the technology to engage. And, you know, Judith and all, that's an ongoing issue and not something we can easily solve, but just wanted to recognize that as hard as we try to help support our clients and learners in accessing technology, they don't all have access to it.
It's a fantastic point. I think one suggestion that I would just make on that front would be that there are like non-tech ways that we can improve these remote environments. I would say actually just simple pen and paper and sort of creating like a system of symbols is something that I've seen be used, where some folks can basically create, let's say, a big like WTF, like big question mark. And so like, how is everyone feeling about this concept? And instead of having to go through the process of creating a poll and then someone answering that, which can feel a bit clunky, it's just a simple people raise the sheet of paper that corresponds with their level of understanding. So that's a super simple, non-tech way. Additionally, you can do the finger system of like, okay, I want to see everyone put their hand up from 1 to 5. Are you getting this? Or where's your energy level at? So there's some creative ways that we can think about kind of not using technology that can also make the remote experience a little bit better. The last piece I'd just kind of land on is I've also seen people kind of, okay, we're stuck in these heads and boxes environment. Let's have some fun with it. So like I've seen people be like, hey, like high five the person above you and then to your left of you, and you can kind of have some games that way. That's another idea to kind of bring some life to these kind of remote environments.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to skip to a couple other little questions here. One person said that lots of value here, and perhaps we can even have you back to do an encore with maybe some more Benji demo in there.
Sure, yeah.
One person is asking, is Benji free?
Right now, it's totally free. And I think we're going to have it free for educators for quite some time. you just need to go to app.mybenji.com, and you'll see at the bottom there, you'll see could create an account, and you can create your own account that way. Also, my email is matt@mybenji.com, so feel free to shoot me a message if you want any sort of sharing of ideas on how you can kind of use our tool to bring a bit more life to your classrooms.
That's great. I put both of those things in the chat, the link to the create your own free account, app.mybenji.com, and also matt@mybenji.com with a J. I didn't misspell it this time, Matt.
Right, yeah.
So Colleen has a question.
Okay, so I'm putting myself out on an honest limb by asking this question, but I'm of the generation that's maybe not so tech savvy, unlike you, Matt.
Okay.
I'm totally confused, honestly. Like, I'm not sure maybe I'm the only one, but like we went through so many different concepts and we talked about the app and different things. I'm like, what we just did was this the Benji app? I'm familiar with Kahoot. We use that at the college. I'm just I found this, maybe it's just me. I'm kind of all over the place. I'm not really understanding what the Benji app is. So that's my honest.
Right.
I'm the only one, so.
Yeah, so I would say that appreciate the feedback. The idea for the talk wasn't to just give you a demo of Benji. It was more about kind of, hey, what's the problem with going remote? And sort of, as we mentioned, those three kind of core areas of difficult to not have the structures for hands-on activities. So how can we create structures? How can we liven up the level of communication? So that's the kind of the 8-year-old stories. It's it's the sandboards. It's sort of use the medium. And then it's also social loafing. And then so with Benji, what we've done here is built a tool that allows you to hopefully deliver remote activities in a lot easier way. So you can throw up a brainstorm, you can throw up a exits ticket, you can throw in conversation cards or role play cards, quizzes, what have you. And so that's generally the kind of idea where you're not stuck between just a whiteboard or just a simple question and answer. We're kind of in this space of digital remote activities.
Okay.
I see 1 or 2 comments in the chat of people who were not able to get on to the app today. We did have a few people at the beginning who had some issues getting on and then either closed their browser and opened it up again and were able to get on. So unfortunately, it looks like a couple of people weren't able to actually access the activities today. Just continuing to scroll through here. I did put the link to in the chat. So somebody had been asking for that. Do you need a cell phone with Benji?
Just anything that can connect to the internet. We generally suggest a cell phone just because it's handy if someone only has a laptop and not a laptop and a second monitor, that you can have a space where you see and hear other people, and then your kind of workspace becomes your cell phone. But that's if someone prefers to use their desktop and create a second window, that's also totally fine. It effectively just like Kahoot, where you've got a main presenter view and then you have a participant view.
Okay. There's quite a bit of interest, I think, in having another session. And Matt, maybe the suggestion would be that we do focus on the tool next time, just like you kind of did with me individually and a few others previous. So
happy to, yeah.
Yeah, seems to be some interest in that. So to kind of go back to your comment, Colleen, we were using the Benji app for the activities, but not sort of having an exclusive presentation around using Benji, but more around the, some of the background to remote delivery and remote workshops, which was also super useful. So Matt, I'll connect with you, and lots of comments. Another session would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as a follow-up.
As a follow-up. Yep. So I can tell you that those of you that are on today that we will definitely follow up with Matt, and maybe Matt, a couple of smaller sessions would be better. Like we had a big group today because we had both employment services and upgrading. Right. So maybe we'll break off and have some smaller sessions to make it a little bit easier for next time. And I have to say, in fairness to Matt, I didn't tell him that there would be probably 80 or 90 people on today.
Yeah, I was a little intimidated with that number, but yeah, I think a couple follow-up smaller groups like 20 to 30 would be great.
That would be good. Any tools we can use to improve engagement are welcome. Sorry, just going back to the chat here for a second. One person said the feedback has not been updated to Benji yet. Are you, when in the feedback step, we don't see the feedback as participants, it only goes to the moderator or the presenter.
I actually just kind of closed it out. I thought that we're sort of on a hard but anyways, that can be something that we sort of cover in the follow-up.
Okay, so I really thank you, Matt, for getting through today. I had a whole list of new terms that I learned today, like social loafing, even though I certainly know what it is. I didn't know it had a name.
Yeah.
And
not baking bread with your friends. Yeah, exactly.
So thanks to the participants. Thank you to Karen and Jessica, our ASL interpreters, for their great work today. And thank you all for participating. Do stay tuned for more information about upcoming sessions. Between Anne-Marie Cosford and I will commit to scheduling some more sessions separately. And Matt, thank you very much for taking the time. You know, as somebody commented in the chat, having one or two technical glitches is just the way the world works right now.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how prepared we think we are, it happens to all of us. So appreciate you working through those and appreciate the patience of the group with a couple of little glitches as we went through. If you would like to go to app.mybenji.com, you can get a free trial subscription and play with some of the activities, and tune in next time for more information.
All right.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.